When we are eliminating a coefficient in solving an equation, what's really happening is that we are multiplying both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of that coefficient. For example, if we're solving 5x equals 15, the reality is that we first note that 1/5 times 5 equals 1. And so we want to multiply both sides by 1/5. So we take 1/5 times 5x equals 1/5 times 15. 1/5 times 5 is 1. So we have 1x equals 1/5 times 15 is 3. Our solution is x equals 3. However, it may make the arithmetic easier if we think of this as division. Why? Well, okay. 5 divided by 5 equals 1 is a very easy arithmetic problem. On the other hand, if we didn't know that 5 times 1/5 was going to give us 1, making that computation would be relatively time-consuming. Similarly, 15 divided by 5 equals 3 is an easy arithmetic problem. On the other hand, 15 times 1/5, if, again, that we didn't know that multiplication by 1/5 is division by 5, is again relatively time-consuming. Therefore, when solving equations, we will sometimes prefer to write division rather than multiplication by the reciprocal. When we're applying the multiplicative property of equality, we'll prefer to write multiplication still if we're eliminating a fraction coefficient. So for example, if we start with 2/3 x equals 4, we'll prefer to write that move as multiplication by 3/2. And maybe we'll prefer to write multiplication if we plan to distribute. So we might prefer to write 1/3 times x plus 3 equals 1/3 times 6, rather than x plus 3 over 3 equals 6 over 3. For this situation, choose whichever you prefer. On the other hand, there are also times when we prefer to write division. We definitely prefer to write division if we're eliminating a whole number coefficient. So if we're solving 2x equals 8, we definitely prefer to write division by 2 rather than multiplication by 1/2. And we'll typically prefer to write division if we plan to use a calculator for the arithmetic, especially if we have a mixed number or decimal coefficient, because the division is easier to enter on the calculator. So for example, if we have 3.5x equals 21, we would write divide by 3.5 on both sides. Let's see how we would write this, then, in the process of solving a two-step equation. Suppose we want to solve 3 1/3 x plus 4 equals 24. We would eliminate the 4 first by adding -4 to both sides, leaving us just 3 1/3 x on the left. 24 minus 4 is 20. And now we would write divide both sides by 3 1/3. 3 1/3 divided by 3 1/3 equals 1, is what we're thinking here. And so we're left with just x equals, using a calculator to do this division, we get 6. X equals 6 then. is our solution. As before, notice that we wrote the division twice. We wrote the division separately for our two expressions.